Do you know what it truly means to give up your humanity? To have your body torn apart, rebuilt, and reshaped into something beyond comprehension? Most people never imagine it, but somewhere in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, that impossible fate awaits the few who answer the Emperor's call. It begins with a question whispered in the corridors of your mind: am I willing to surrender everything I am, to become something greater? The choice is never easy, and for most, it is terrifying. The human who steps forward knows that their life as they have known it is over. Family, memories, even the very essence of who they are will be stripped away. And yet, the allure is undeniable: power beyond mortal limits, purpose beyond ordinary comprehension, and the chance to serve the Imperium as one of its most feared warriors. The transformation begins long before the first blade pierces the flesh. There is a ritual of selection, a psychological scrutiny so intense that it can break the mind of even the strongest candidate. Your fears, your doubts, every trace of weakness is examined, measured, and discarded. Only those deemed worthy are allowed to proceed. And even then, the horrors have only begun. From that moment, the human is no longer simply human. Their body is subjected to chemical and surgical transmutations, organs replaced with machines and gene seed that will make them faster, stronger, and more resilient than any mortal soldier. Bones are reinforced. Muscles are grafted. Senses are heightened to superhuman levels. And yet, with each augmentation, something is lost: the softness of flesh, the warmth of blood, the simple joys that once defined your life. They call it evolution. In truth, it is extinction of self. The mind, too, must be reshaped. The Space Marine is trained not just to fight, but to think, to strategize, to anticipate death itself and stare into it without fear. Memory and identity are tempered like steel, forged to serve a singular purpose: the will of the Emperor. Doubt, hesitation, compassion, these are liabilities. By the time the transformation is complete, the person who entered the fortress of initiation is gone. What remains is a warrior of perfection, terrifying, unwavering, and utterly alien. And yet, somewhere beneath the layers of machine, hormone, and enhanced tissue, traces of humanity cling, fleeting, fragile, and yet stubborn. They are the only reminders of what was sacrificed, the echo of a life that can never be reclaimed. And for the one who survives, who emerges from the crucible of the chapter's forge, there is only one truth: you are no longer merely human. You are the Emperor's instrument, a weapon in a galaxy at war, and a creature that the universe itself may fear. The process begins in silence, in chambers where the air is thick with chemicals and the hum of machinery. The candidate lies on a cold, unfeeling table, the first sharp sting of surgical instruments piercing flesh. Every incision is a reminder: you are no longer your own. Limbs are enhanced, replaced, and reinforced. Tendons and ligaments are reshaped to endure forces that would shatter a normal human body. Bones are infused with adamantium-like compounds, and cartilage is strengthened to resist crushing blows. Every nerve ending is calibrated to feel precisely what the chapter demands: pain, yes, but also heightened awareness, a predator's instinct. Then come the organs. Each one is evaluated, and many are removed or replaced entirely. Lungs are augmented to survive toxins, poisons, and the void of space itself. Hearts are enhanced to pump with relentless force, driving blood through a body that now demands more than ordinary life can provide. The liver, kidneys, and even the stomach are transformed into organs that process foreign substances without complaint, that convert near-fatal injuries into survivable trauma. But it is not merely the body that suffers. The mind is subjected to a storm of indoctrination, hypnotic conditioning, and psychic reinforcement. Dreams are invaded. Memories are tested and sometimes erased. The human must endure visions of fire and death, of galaxies consumed by war, until fear is no longer a companion but a tool to sharpen the mind. The will of the candidate is hammered like steel in the forge of necessity, every hesitation crushed, every doubt confronted. Some do not survive. Some awaken only to find that what remained of their mind is a hollow echo of the person they once were. And then, there is the gene seed. A gift and a curse, it is planted deep within the body, where it takes root and begins to transform every cell, every organ, every fiber of being. The candidate becomes more than human, they become something monstrous, something divine in its purpose, yet terrifying to behold. Bones sprout with unnatural strength, muscles swell with impossible power, and senses that once guided a mortal life now reach beyond the natural spectrum, the ability to see in darkness, to hear whispers across battlefields, to sense the heartbeat of a dying foe. With power comes awareness, and with awareness comes horror. The newly transformed Space Marine experiences the galaxy as few humans can comprehend, worlds burning, populations crushed, the endless wars of 1,000 generations. Their enemies are legion, yet they are relentless. In this moment, the candidate realizes that to be a Space Marine is not to be a soldier, it is to become an instrument of absolute judgment, a living weapon forged from pain, loss, and unimaginable sacrifice. By the time the first trials of combat arrive, the transformation is complete. The human is gone. What remains is a being of purpose and terror, faster, stronger, and more resilient than any mortal could dream. And yet, deep beneath the surface, in the corners of memory and feeling that even the gene seed cannot reach, there lingers a question, a whisper: was it worth it? The first battle is unlike anything the human mind can imagine. As a mere mortal, you may have dreamed of courage, valor, or glory, but none of these prepare you for the reality of being a Space Marine. Every movement is faster, sharper, more precise than the body you once had could manage. You think, and the action follows, instinct and will fuse into one unstoppable force. The battlefield is a living, breathing nightmare, a maelstrom of fire, screaming, and death, yet you glide through it as if untouched by fear. Weapons that would fell entire squads are light in your hands. Bolters roar like thunder, their shells tearing through armor and flesh alike. Chainswords shred enemies as easily as paper. You do not flinch, you do not hesitate. The enemies you once feared now fall before you, their terror echoing in the corners of your mind like a dark hymn. It is intoxicating, the power, the speed, the dominance. You are no longer human. You are the Emperor's wrath made flesh. Yet, power comes with a cost far greater than pain or injury. Each life taken leaves a mark, a residue of conscience you may not immediately recognize. The gene seed suppresses doubt, tempers emotion, and channels aggression, but it cannot erase memory entirely. In the quiet moments between battles, memories of your former humanity surface, faces of friends, the laughter of family, the warmth of sunlight on an ordinary day. These moments are fleeting, cruelly fleeting, yet they remind you that what you are now is no longer fully human. The first kill is always the hardest. You may have imagined it, trained for it, even celebrated the inevitability of war, but the act of taking life with hands transformed into weapons, of feeling death so intimately and personally, changes something deep inside. Some call it the death of the soul, others call it clarity. For the new Space Marine, it is a mixture of awe, horror, and resignation. You are capable of acts a human cannot fathom, yet every act strips away another layer of the person you once were. And in the midst of triumph, the universe reminds you of its cruelty. Entire worlds fall, civilians perish, allies die, betrayals abound. The galaxy is not fair, it is not just, and it does not care for the righteousness of your mission. In this crucible, the new Space Marine learns the hardest lesson of all: strength alone is meaningless without purpose, and absolute power carries a shadow so dark that it can consume even the strongest will. By the time the first battle ends, you understand the truth. You are both godlike and damned. Humanity is behind you, monstrosity lies ahead. The transformation is complete not only in body, but in mind, in spirit, and in the brutal awakening to the relentless horrors of war. And yet, a whisper persists in the back of your consciousness: is this what I was meant to become, or what the galaxy demanded I become? Time becomes a strange, meaningless concept. Days, months, even years blur together in the endless cycle of deployment, battle, and regeneration. As a human, you once measured life by moments of joy, love, and sorrow. Now, existence is measured in kills, campaigns, and the unceasing march of duty. You wake, fight, survive, and repeat. Sleep is fleeting, a luxury afforded only by the most brutal exhaustion. Humanity, once familiar and comforting, is a ghost you chase in your memory, but the longer you live as a space marine, the further it drifts away. The horrors of war are no longer foreign, they are personal. Entire populations burn to ash, loyal soldiers crushed beneath the weight of betrayal, alien monstrosities that defy imagination. And yet, as a space marine, you are expected to remain unshaken, unfeeling, a perfect instrument of the Emperor's will. Compassion is a liability, and hesitation is death. Over time, you discover that the greatest enemy is not the Xenos, heretic, or traitor, but the fragment of yourself that still questions, that still remembers. Even among your brothers, the alienation is profound. Though each of you has endured the same crucible, you recognize the others not as men, but as something far removed from humanity. Bonds are forged in fire and blood, yes, but these are not friendships as mortals know them. They are alliances of necessity, tempered by shared purpose and the unspoken acknowledgement of what you have all lost. Conversation, laughter, and empathy are relics, almost alien in their simplicity. To feel anything else is to risk distraction, weakness, or despair. And yet, there are moments when the human beneath the armor surfaces. A fleeting memory, a brief pang of sorrow, a flash of rage not tied to duty but to some primal instinct, reminds you that your transformation was not merely physical. It is a prison and a liberation all at once. The body is immortal, the senses sharp beyond measure, and the mind capable of strategy and clarity that no mortal could comprehend, but the soul, if it can still be called that, is trapped. A warrior without rest, a predator without predator, a being caught between man and myth. The galaxy continues its relentless churn, indifferent to your existence. Worlds rise and fall, empires crumble, and the creatures of chaos creep ever closer, hungering for destruction. Each victory is fleeting, each campaign leaves scars deeper than flesh can show. The weight of eternity presses down, and you realize that no matter your power, no matter your enhancements, you are still subject to the same universal truth as all mortals: nothing lasts forever, and the cost of survival is always more than the body can bear. By this stage, the Space Marine knows a profound loneliness, a cold, inexorable awareness that to be strong, to endure, to serve, is to be isolated. Humanity is behind you, yet it watches, helpless, unable to understand the enormity of what you have become. And in the quiet moments before the next battle, before the next world falls, you confront the final truth of your transformation: immortality is not salvation, it is eternal duty, a never-ending struggle, and a life measured not in moments, but in the endless, echoing shadow of war. There comes a moment when power ceases to be a gift and becomes a burden too immense to bear. The Space Marine stands upon the precipice of godlike strength, faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything mortal, but with every heartbeat, every drop of blood, the shadow of what was lost grows heavier. The galaxy is at war, and you are both weapon and witness, hunter and hunted. You have fought armies, monsters, and traitors, yet the true battle is not against enemies of flesh and bone, it is against the fragment of yourself that clings stubbornly to what you once were. In the midst of battle, the horrors are unbearable. Worlds burn beneath your feet, screams pierce the void, and the bodies of the fallen lie uncounted in the smoke and ruin. You crush the traitors, tear apart the heretics, and annihilate the Xenos, but each act leaves an indelible mark on the mind. The gene seed cannot erase the memory of lives ended, only suppress it. And somewhere beneath the armor, beneath the steel and fury, a voice whispers, reminding you of your humanity: daring you to feel regret, sorrow, or guilt. Then comes the ultimate test, a confrontation that shatters everything you believed about duty, loyalty, and purpose. Perhaps it is a betrayal from within your chapter, a demonic incursion of unimaginable horror, or a decision that forces you to choose between the lives of innocents and the fulfillment of your mission. Here, at the apex of power, the Space Marine discovers the final truth: absolute strength cannot shield you from moral torment. The body is unstoppable, but the soul may still bleed. In this crucible, the human you once were is revealed in fleeting flashes. Memories of home, of loved ones, of simpler lives before augmentation, haunt the edges of thought. Yet there is no retreat. The galaxy does not pause for hesitation. Your brothers fight beside you, their faces masked by helmets, their voices clipped by duty, but you sense the same torment within them. Together, you are invincible. Alone, each of you is haunted by the ghosts of who you once were. The climax is violent, overwhelming, and terrifying. The enemies fall in a storm of fire and steel, yet victory tastes bitter. You have become a god of war, a living weapon, yet in the triumph is a hollow echo, the knowledge that every moment of power comes at the cost of what made you human. And in that silence, in the pause between battles, the Space Marine realizes the ultimate paradox of transformation: you have gained immortality, strength beyond comprehension, and a purpose carved into the bones of the galaxy, but in exchange, you have lost the self that once could have laughed, loved, and wept. The apex of power is also the abyss of the soul. The Space Marine survives, endures, and continues the endless cycle of war, but in the quiet, the whisper of humanity persists. It is faint, almost imperceptible, yet it reminds you that no amount of steel, no gene seed, no psychic conditioning can fully erase what once defined you. In becoming the Emperor's instrument, you have achieved perfection in war, and perfection is terrifying in its emptiness. The battle ends, but the war does not. The Space Marine stands amidst the ruin of a world he has both saved and condemned. Silence stretches across the battlefield, broken only by the crackle of dying fires and the distant moans of the vanquished. In this stillness, the reality of transformation settles in. The human who once dreamed of heroism and honor is gone, replaced by something more perfect, more lethal, and yet infinitely more isolated. The mind remembers fragments, memories of laughter, warmth, and love, but they are like shards of glass, impossible to fully grasp without pain. The body, now a machine of war, feels nothing but the residual ache of combat and the faint echo of purpose. You are immortal, yes, but you are alone. Immortality is no blessing, it is a sentence. You move forward, carrying the weight of countless lives, countless worlds, and the relentless expectation of the Emperor. Duty has replaced desire, obedience has replaced choice, and power has replaced everything human. Yet even in this emptiness, a whisper endures. The faintest trace of humanity remains, not enough to make you whole, not enough to restore what was lost, but enough to remind you that you once were something more than a weapon. It is this fragment that keeps the Space Marine tethered to the galaxy he protects, even as he drifts further from it. The galaxy may never understand him, may never value him as a human once was, but he endures, because that is his fate. And so, the cycle continues. The Space Marine marches on to the next battle, the next world, the next nightmare. He is perfection forged in fire, a living embodiment of the Emperor's wrath, and a creature both revered and feared across the stars. Humanity may live on behind him, oblivious to the sacrifices required, but he knows the truth: there is no glory without horror, no victory without loss, and no salvation without surrendering all that makes you human. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And in this war, the Space Marine is both god and ghost, invincible, terrifying, and forever haunted by the question that began it all: what price must a man pay to become more than human, and is it a price worth paying? The answer lingers, unspoken, in the minds of those who dare to imagine it, leaving a shiver in the spine and a shadow of fear that will never fade. Years turn into decades, decades into centuries, and yet the galaxy remains unchanged in its cruelty. The Space Marine endures, unchanged outwardly, but forever shifting within. Flesh may heal, organs may adapt, and reflexes may sharpen beyond comprehension, but the mind knows no such respite. Memories of mortality fade, yet the echoes of a human life linger like ghosts in the corners of thought. Faces of friends, family, and innocence haunt the edges of perception, reminders of a past forever unreachable. The other Space Marines around you are no solace. Though you fight side by side, they are reflections of your own isolation, monsters molded from the same crucible, brothers in arms but strangers in spirit. You share victory, blood, and death, yet the bond is one of purpose, not of heart. Conversation is clipped, emotion is suppressed. The machinery of war demands perfection, and perfection does not allow for softness. The universe continues to grind away, indifferent to the suffering it leaves in its wake, and you march forward, an eternal sentinel. The galaxy itself becomes a landscape of dread. Worlds rise and fall, civilizations burn, and Xenos infestations spread like a disease, yet the Space Marine remains. Each battle leaves scars invisible to the eye, psychological fractures born of endless carnage. For even the most enhanced mind cannot fully suppress the horror witnessed over centuries of combat. Nightmares do not cease, they adapt, reflecting the scale of war, the cries of the dead, and the endless faces of humanity lost to fire, famine, and fanaticism. And yet, purpose persists. Though hollow, though isolated, the Space Marine continues. The Emperor's command is absolute, a guiding force that overrides doubt, fear, and the creeping despair of eternal life. Power, speed, strength, these are yours beyond measure, but they are shackles as much as gifts. Every swing of a chain sword, every detonation of a bolter, is both proof of your supremacy and evidence of the price exacted by the universe. You are unstoppable, yet alone, immortal, yet haunted, godlike, yet forever estranged from what you once were. In this eternal cycle, the Space Marine begins to understand a deeper truth: to serve the Emperor is not merely to fight, it is to exist in a state of constant sacrifice. Every action, every decision, every drop of blood spilled is part of a larger machinery, a galaxy-spanning pattern in which human life is only a tool, and the Space Marine is the instrument. And as the centuries stretch onward, one question never fades: if I have given up everything that made me human, have I gained anything at all, or have I only traded one prison for another? Immortality is not freedom. It is a weight that grows heavier with every passing century. The Space Marine moves through the galaxy, witnessing endless cycles of birth and death, creation and destruction, yet always remaining unchanged. The stars burn the same, the wars rage the same, and the universe shows no gratitude for the sacrifices made. What once was a human heartbeat now beats in measured, relentless rhythm, calibrated to endure eternity, but every thrum carries the echo of everything lost. The mind begins to fragment under the weight of perspective. Worlds you saved lie in ruin, allies you trusted are gone, innocents you could not protect are long dead. The Emperor's mission is absolute, yet your conscience, though muted, is never silent. It whispers in the quiet moments before battle, in the fleeting pauses between campaigns: was it worth it? The answer is never clear, for humanity itself no longer exists within you in full. You are perfection in war, but incomplete in soul. Morality becomes a luxury. Decisions that would once have been unthinkable are now tools of strategy. To hesitate is to fail, to falter is to die, not just for you, but for thousands under your protection. The line between justice and cruelty blurs. The blood spilled in service of the Emperor's will is necessary, yet every drop stains the consciousness with a reminder that even godlike strength cannot cleanse guilt. Immortality does not absolve, it only prolongs awareness. And then there is the loneliness, an abyss that cannot be filled. The galaxy is vast, yet you are confined within your own existence. You see generations rise and fall while you remain, unchanged, watching the fleeting lives of humans pass by like shadows. Brothers in arms die, enemies regenerate, worlds crumble and are forgotten. And you endure, a sentinel among ghosts, an instrument that remembers everything yet feels nothing fully. In this burden lies the ultimate paradox: the Space Marine is both victor and victim, weapon and prisoner. The power to destroy entire armies is yours, but the power to reclaim your humanity is forever lost. The body can survive any wound, the mind can calculate any strategy, but the soul, if it can still be called that, remains trapped in a cage of immortality. And in that cage, a question haunts you more persistently than any enemy: have I become the Emperor's perfect soldier, or the galaxy's eternal tragedy? At last, the final truth is revealed, not in battle, not in conquest, but in the silence that follows. The Space Marine, having endured centuries of war, feels the weight of every life taken, every world lost, every moment of humanity abandoned. The galaxy stretches endlessly before him, indifferent, unchanging, a canvas painted with fire and blood. In this stillness, the enormity of what has been sacrificed becomes undeniable. The human who once dared to dream, to hope, to feel, has been erased, leaving only a perfect instrument of war. Victory has no warmth. Glory has no light. Even the Emperor's gaze, though absolute, offers no comfort. The Space Marine stands alone, immortal and invincible, yet burdened by memories that refuse to die. Faces of friends, innocents, and enemies alike flicker in the mind like shadows, reminders of a life that was surrendered, a soul that was traded for power. The transformation was complete, but perfection has its price, and it is paid in the currency of everything that once made life worth living. And yet, there is purpose. The Emperor's will drives the Space Marine forward, into the next war, the next campaign, the next nightmare. Strength, speed, resilience, and unyielding will, they are yours, yet they are also chains. To endure, to conquer, to survive, is no longer a choice, it is the destiny that was chosen for you, before you even knew the cost. Every bolt fired, every sword swung, every life taken echoes with the reminder that humanity is behind you, but you are forever beyond it. In the echoing silence of countless worlds, one thought persists, haunting and immutable: what price must be paid to become more than human, and is any price worth such perfection? There is no answer. The Space Marine moves onward, a god of war and a ghost of what once was, an eternal sentinel in a galaxy that will never know his name, never understand his sacrifice, and never forgive the horror that is required to endure. The story ends not with triumph, but with the lingering echo of loss. The human is gone, the warrior remains, and the galaxy waits, endless and merciless, for the next battle to begin. The Space Marine stands alone amidst the ruins of a world he has both defended and destroyed. Victory carries no warmth, power brings no comfort. Immortality is a curse as much as it is a gift. The human who once dreamed, who once hoped, is gone, replaced by a weapon forged from fire, blood, and endless sacrifice. He moves forward, unstoppable, invincible, yet haunted. Memories of the life he lost linger like shadows, faces, laughter, the touch of sunlight on a simpler day. The galaxy stretches endlessly before him, indifferent, unchanging, a battlefield that will never end. And in the quiet moments, when no enemy stirs and no orders are given, one thought whispers in the emptiness: what price must be paid to become more than human, and was it worth it? There is no answer. Only the endless march of war, the eternal duty, and the echo of a life sacrificed to the Emperor's will. The Space Marine endures. Humanity is behind him, perfection is within him, and the galaxy waits for the next battle. The story ends here, not with triumph, but with the lingering weight of sacrifice, the chilling reminder that in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.